This is what I would expect to see in most places that are drab by weather, by landscape, or a combination of, not to mention the architecture. That's bright, brilliant colors. I would hope for design also, but this would be a minimal. I just like the looks of the architecture on this little addition to that bigger home there. I like the interplay of that gray and the brown wood, the windows, the little deck on the back. This looks like someone's home, beautifully decorated, beautifully landscaped, I said. Great attention to detail, great attention to the plants that are here, that lovely water feature. Even notice there's a ivy growing in a flower box up there, or up to there at least, perhaps from the deck. Very, very pretty. Now the house is 1912. Looks like their neighbors have followed through with similar effort. That beautiful tree looks like it has lights strung along its trunk. Not sure I'd noticed this building before. I presumably have. It's on the main drag. About to pan the larger homes in that old 1850 style that would have sat up on the hill a little bit and had a great view of the lake. And if you look at that yellow house at the top in the center, you'll see the widow's walk, or the widow's balcony. Same on this red one. These were probably pretty substantial houses, but still, because of the nature of Iceland in the 1850s, you used the Danish materials, corrugated metal. Of course, all this junk got added and destroyed your view once you lost your power. This large, what I'm assuming is a Danish style cement building, has at least some nice design elements. Looks like there's another large building of the similar design behind it. Interesting is next door, this very old looking and very unique looking cemetery. This door is locked, but I'll see if I can get in here. It's unique for a couple of reasons. One, it looks so old with the moss covered walls for each grave site, and most importantly, the way the trees grow right out of the grave sites, literally. I mean, this is like Ichabod Crane stuff, that era. And notice they are coming out from where the graves are. So these may well be the transformation of former Reykjavik citizens. And I'm not trying to be as funny as it sounds. The way this door works, hinged at the top, but then this double hinging mechanism down at the bottom that allows it to swing forward and open in this perhaps tight space of this wall. I could gather from looking at a little bit of an interpretive sign in the beginning was that here are buried, of course, important people as well as probably unimportant people, but they're writers, poets, that sort of thing also. Looks like this tree motif is followed through on this gravesite with a sculpted tree trunk. I have to imagine the root system there underground. This almost cliched iconic. A couple of mushrooms growing up out of two grave sites. A gravestone of a very large stone, but in this instance with the lettering, I think, put on probably in brass letters. Seems to represent 9 people buried in that relatively small square, unless it references graves behind it. There were graves and cemeteries in Europe, particularly amongst the Jews, where people were buried on top of each other because the Nazis had put the Jews in a ghetto and restricted the space they had for anything, including their cemeteries. So that became a necessity. Very beautiful sculpted headstone out of original rock. And even the supplemental one covered now with moss. With the two pillars that are truncated, alludes to perhaps the two basalt pillars that are the centerpiece of Reykjavik's coat of arms. Is there a presumption in graves and gravestones and their like that the people considered themselves important in any way at all? Because as I think about that question, I can't see myself as being considered in the context of my society, my culture, the future of both, as having had any importance in it whatsoever. Of course, is a basalt column. Tragic irony of graveyards and gravestones is they tell us nothing about the lives of the people they represent. That if we have any value at all to the future, it has to be in the stories of our lives. What does this beautiful headstone grave marker say about this person? That they or their family was wealthy, by implication important, but what are the stories that really lie behind this person's life? The authors of our culture oftentimes leave the story of their lives embedded in their literature, like the Bronte sisters. Now it's like a maze. There is no way for me to get through here without walking over graves. The base of this stone is embedded with obsidian, still cared for. 1914. How interesting. And from where I came in, way over there somewhere. So you'll have a sense of the extent of this forested cemetery. A little modern chapel, if you will, or centerpiece to the cemetery that has a little bit of the hint of modern with these cement columns, but certainly alludes to the old churches we've seen in Iceland. It occurred to me, which one wonders why it took so long, that it is a tradition that when you bury someone, at some point after that, you plant a tree in their plot. Even to the extent that this tree is on the right side for the one who died early. And maybe that one, I don't know why it's in the middle. Where there's several graves in one plot, you see 3 trees. Here, probably 3 people, and you see one big tree in the center. Here, 2 people, one unused or maybe used long ago, with only 1 tree. A plaintive, silent shout into the abyss. And before we leave, I'm reminded, as I always am when I walk through cemeteries, of Omar Khayyam's poems. 1. Make the most of what we may yet spend, before we too into the dust descend. Dust into dust, and under dust to lie. Song's wine, song's song, song's singer, and song's end. And my most favorite of Omar Khayyam's poems, from the time I first heard it used by Clarence Darrow, the great attorney for the damned, in about the 1930s, in the Loeb and Leopold case. The moving finger writes, and having writ, moves on, nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it.